But we begin with what is now a four-way race in Iowa's 2020 Democratic caucuses. According to a new Quinnipiac poll, Senator Elizabeth Warren is in the lead with 20% of support. Mayor Pete Buttigieg is 1 point behind at 19%. Bernie Sanders sits at 17%. Former Vice President Joe Biden at 15. All candidates sit within the poll's almost 5-point margin of error, but this is the third poll in Iowa showing Biden in fourth place.
Willie, we're going to look at a national poll in a minute, but of course, you look at Iowa because it shapes so much of what happens immediately after in New Hampshire, what happens immediately after in South Carolina and Nevada. But in this poll, like several others, you see two big headlines. One, Mayor Pete is moving up fast in Iowa.
For sure.
He's got the momentum behind him. And Joe Biden has fallen from first place. He was in a comfortable first place this summer. Again, this is the third or so poll where he has been in fourth place in Iowa. It's hard to see how short on money, fourth place in Iowa, him moving to New Hampshire and things going much better there.
It's a four-way tie in Iowa, what we saw right there, all within the margin of error. It's almost exactly reflective of the New York Times poll that was out last week that showed that same order and about those same numbers. Another number that is exactly the same between the two polls is that only 46% of voters in Iowa have made up their minds. So that's all to say, with a four-way tie and more than half of the voters in the state not yet made up their mind, it's wide open. But I think you're right. Elizabeth Warren's surge has been extraordinary over the last few months, and we've sort of taken it for granted now, but the fact that the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, a city known for its football team previously, is sitting tied for the lead in Iowa, that is just an extraordinary story for Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, it really is. And you also look, Susan, at
you got opportunities
at what's
here.
going on. And Joe Biden, I mean, politics is all about momentum. And you can look at Biden and see that his candidacy has really struggled. That he's in fourth place. It's just unthinkable a couple of months ago, but he's in fourth place now. And you would say momentum is everything when it comes to politics. But in this case, there are two caveats that we always have to keep in mind. One is John Kerry in 2004 basically finished even a month before Iowa, before he came roaring back and winning his party's nomination. And 4 years later, you had John McCain having his entire campaign collapse around him about this time. And he came back and won his party's nomination. So it's not over for Joe Biden, but a lot of things right now are lining up in a way that are really going to test him personally as a politician and also test his candidacy.
That's right, Joe. And in addition to that, Joe Biden started off running a national campaign, and he wanted to come in as the best chance to beat Donald Trump, and really tried to make a national appeal for it, maybe even bringing in, looking at moderate voters, not just typical primary voters, which tend to be more to the left. But what we see in that Iowa poll is he does not have an organization on the ground. When you're running a national campaign, you have to also pay attention to those details. And that's what, for example, Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren, from day one, when their numbers were low, they kept building as they got money, they build their ground game. And that was essential. So I agree with you on the momentum. The only, I think, that what can help Biden is, his super PAC, if they can do some real good work there. But Biden's got to spend a lot of time in Iowa in convincing people to go caucus for him, because the only way you do that in Iowa is meeting the people.
You know, Steve Ratner, I'd said about a couple months ago, because Joe Biden, if he makes it there in one piece politically, will do very well in South Carolina, will do very well in the Super Tuesday contests that follow, and could be off to the races. But that would require him to either win in Iowa or finish a strong second in Iowa. New Hampshire, after that's not much better for him, because he's going to be squeezed from the senator from Vermont and the senator from Massachusetts. I mean, New Hampshire is home state for them. If Pete Buttigieg does well in New Hampshire, he's going to have that momentum that's going to push him there. And Joe Biden's once again going to be risking being in fourth place. I'm wondering, with all these stories of Joe Biden running out of money, with yet another poll showing the supposed frontrunner in 4th place in Iowa. How much concern is there among Biden fundraisers and among Democratic bundlers that maybe this is not the guy they want to bet, the horse they want to bet on?
I would say there's a lot of concern, Joe, for all the reasons you say, that the fundraising for Joe Biden didn't go well in the 3rd quarter. These polls in Iowa, and as you know, Iowa for Biden in 2008 didn't go very well either. He doesn't have a great history in Iowa. Finishing 3rd and 4th in Iowa as the front runner, the presumed front runner, would be obviously very difficult for him. The one advantage he may have in New Hampshire is Bernie and Elizabeth possibly splitting the neighboring state vote, so to speak, which might give him some kind of a way to thread the needle there, but also tough. Nevada, he should do okay. And then there's South Carolina. But to your point about Super Tuesday, Super Tuesday is about 5 days after South Carolina. And so if you don't have the money, even if you do well in South Carolina, to raise the kind of money you have to raise in 5 days to deal with a almost quasi-national primary, 45% of the delegates will be picked by the end of Super Tuesday in California, Texas, and so on. This is all tough. So the answer to your question is yes. There is nervousness among the Biden supporters as to how Joe is going to sort of get from here to there, because the alternative, as you have said, is Elizabeth Warren, and that is an idea that strikes fear into the hearts of many Democrats. Whether you agree with her or not, it's the question of her electability.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.